I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right, I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's gonna do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
For Mike Brown. I'm sick of writing this poem, but bring the boy. His new name, his same old body, ordinary black dead thing, bring him. And we will mourn until we forget what we are mourning. And isn't that what being black is about? Not the joy of it, but the feeling when you're looking at your child, turn your head, then poof, no more child. That feeling, that's black. Think, once a white girl was kidnapped and that's the Trojan War. Later, up the block, Troy got shot and that was Tuesday. Are we not worthy of a city of ash, of 1,000 ships launched because we are missed? I demand a war to bring the black boy back no matter what his name is this time. I at least demand a song. A song will do. Or a head.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
All right, friends and neighbors, here we go on a Tuesday, Big Tuesday, Super Tuesday. Tuesday, March 1, 2016. Super Tuesday indeed, coming to you live on Free Speech TV and worldwide on a video stream, Talker, TawkrTV. It is the Bill Press Show. Welcome to it. Thank you for joining us. Give us a call and talk about the issues of the day. That's why we're here. Give us that call to our toll-free number at 866-55-PRESS, or you can send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Yes, indeed, this is a big day. The Democratic primary and the Republican primary go nationwide today. 11 states plus American Samoa, and it looks like it could be for Donald Trump. On the Republican side, he's expected to win every state except Texas, and he might even win Texas, which would send Ted Cruz for a loop and probably knock him out of the race. And on the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton is supposed, by the way, there are 889 delegates on the Democratic side up for grabs. Hillary Clinton's expected to sweep the South, but Bernie Sanders expected to win or come very close in 5 states, Colorado and Massachusetts and Vermont and Oklahoma and one other that I'm forgetting. Minnesota. How could I forget Minnesota? Yes, indeed. So there you go. It's going to be a very exciting day, and the whole map could change. This whole primary could change as of today. Tomorrow we could be talking about an entirely different picture. And the biggest news of the day, Clarence Thomas speaks, actually asked a question yesterday for the first time in 10 years. Oh, my God. Lots to talk about. Good to have you with us. Off we go on Super Tuesday.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
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 How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
$42 million. Yep. That's Bernie Sanders' campaign haul during the month of February. Record-breaking, shattering $42 million from over 1 million individual contributions. Average contribution, $30. Who needs a super PAC? Not Bernie. He's proved you can do it with just grassroots contributions. Hello, everybody. Happy Super Tuesday. Yes, indeed. For the rest of the world, it is Tuesday, March 1. For Americans, it is Super Tuesday. 11, 12 states go out today, depending on whether you're a Democrat or Republican, to choose their delegates to the National Convention, Republican or Democratic National Convention. And today could settle the whole thing on the Republican side, and today could chart us a new direction on the Democratic side. Well, there's a lot at stake today, and we're going to be talking about it and examining from every different angle. That's why it's good to have you with us here on the Bill Press Show as we come to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Reaching out to you all across this great land of ours. You're listening on the radio. We're there right alongside of you. In the car, in the kitchen, at home, in the bedroom, in the bathroom, wherever you happen to be.
Hey now.
Right. We're there with you. And then we'll take you to work a little bit later. And if you're watching on TV, we're there sitting alongside of you too on Free Speech TV. Watching on your electronic device on TawkrTV. We got it covered and look forward to hearing from you. Give us a call about Super Tuesday. You live in a Super Tuesday state. How do you think it's going to go, particularly maybe in Colorado or Minnesota or Vermont or Massachusetts, some of those, or Oklahoma, states that look to be good for Bernie Sanders today? Give us a holler. And at 866-55-PRESS. This whole team here ready to go. Peter Ogburn is back. Hello, Peter. And
hello,
Jamie
Bill.
Benson
Here we are.
Still here.
Good morning.
Jamie did a great job yesterday.
I believe it.
Handling all the extra responsibilities
Good,
that you normally
excellent.
have.
Good, excellent.
Cleaning up Peter Ogburn's messes.
That's right. That's basically
No,
what it is.
I didn't say
I
that.
knew Jamie would do a great job. That's why I definitely didn't wake up at 5:45 yesterday morning to watch and see the show start to make sure that nothing was screwed up.
Oh,
Hallelujah.
man. We got that early morning text.
There we go. Ray Rogers here. She's on the phones to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And did Cyprian make it in today?
He made it in.
He did. Oh, good. Cyprian's here. Well,
he is.
whoa, watch out, the videographer. Yes, indeed. It's a, as you know, and we talked a lot about this yesterday, Peter. It's just been getting really, really ugly on the Republican side. They don't talk about issues anymore. They don't even. I think they even forgot what they're running for. They just go out and attack each other and smear each other and insults, trade insults. Who can say the nastiest thing about the other guy? And it turns out, isn't this funny, that Donald Trump is not the nastiest of all. It turns out Marco Rubio.
This is unbelievable.
Yeah, Rubio's been like holding back, and now. And by the way, I must say, I don't think he does it as well as Trump.
No, it's terrible.
No,
it's awful. Make America orange again?
Yeah,
that's not funny.
No.
It's just dumb.
And you know, so he talks about all kinds of personal things about Donald Trump, including, of course, the bad makeup that he gets, which which prompted Jimmy Fallon last night to a little observation about that.
Marco Rubio seems like he's trying to beat Donald Trump at his own game. He said on a rally on Saturday that Donald Trump has the worst spray tan in America, which led to the first time Donald Trump ever said, "You shouldn't judge people based on the color of their skin." A little rude. You're a little rude.
So the thing is, do you think that John Boehner and Donald Trump have the same makeup artist?
Yeah, Boehner leaves. If Trump does come in,
Only one of them drinks red wine and smokes cigarettes.
That's right.
I don't know about that.
Trump doesn't drink. Trump doesn't drink.
Doesn't he?
No, he doesn't drink. He doesn't drink.
I doubt that he smokes either.
I don't think he smokes. No, he's a clean living kind of guy.
So, in other words, Boehner got his color naturally, and Trump got his through makeup. That's right.
Yeah. There can only be one of them in D.C. at a time.
That's true, too, right. Man, I got to tell you, what a lineup we got today. We've got your regulars, Arthur Delaney and Igor Volsky, except we're letting Igor sleep in a little bit late today. Yeah, because he's been begging us to sleep in. So
Diva.
we finally said, okay, Prince Igor, you can sleep in a little bit today. But he'll be along a little bit later. 2 members of Congress, Tulsi Gabbard from Hawaii, who just endorsed Bernie Sanders, Jan Schakowsky from Illinois, who is a longtime Hillary Clinton supporter, Kyle Kondik from the University of Virginia, Center for Politics, knows the campaign field and the primary field better than anybody, and then Jerry, as in Ben and Jerry.
Yeah.
What a lineup.
I'm telling you.
I'd pay for that lineup. I tell you. And we'll get right to them. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. The Oscars were over the weekend, Sunday night, and we've got the ratings. 34 million viewers tuned in to watch the Oscars. That is an 8-year low.
I was going to say, it sounds like a lot, but it's
not a good number for the Oscars on Sunday night. As a matter of fact, it's down 8% from last year when Neil Patrick Harris hosted. And again, like I said, 34.3 million was the total, an 8-year low. So I think this might be the last time that they asked Chris Rock to do it. I could be wrong. Chris Rock didn't have great ratings the last time he did this, but I like Chris Rock. I hope he keeps getting more gigs like this, but the ratings aren't there.
Well, I think he was the right guy for that show.
Oh, sure.
I think
he does a good job. A lot of people don't like what Chris Rock does with award shows. I do, but clearly the ratings don't really help him out.
Certainly, if they had rolled out a white guy for that job?
That would have been not good. Yesterday at the White House, what a ceremony for the Medal of Honor to go to a man by the name of Edward Byers. Now, what's interesting about this is Edward Byers is part of the SEAL Team 6. So he's the first time that someone's had to come out of the shadows.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Like, I was a member of the SEAL Team 6. He received a Medal of Honor because back in 2012, in a dark single-room building in Afghanistan, this is crazy. A fellow SEAL had been shot during a hostage rescue mission, so Byers burst into the room, shooting a Taliban fighter who had an automatic rifle aimed at him. Another man ran to the corner where a rifle was stored, so Byers tackled him and then tried to adjust his night vision goggles to see whether or not he was the American hostage. He didn't know if this was a good guy or a bad guy. The hostage called out in English, so then Byers knew that what he had was an insurgent. So he shot him and killed him, got the guy out of there.
Incredible.
What a story to this guy. But it's amazing, right, that they had to come out of the shadows and say who he was to get this award. And this I find to be fascinating. There is a new website called Information is Beautiful, and it provides a service to viewers of movies, talking about movies with the Academy Awards. When you see a movie that says this was based on a true story or based on actual events, this site actually takes a look at movies to tell you how much of that movie was actually based on actual events. The top of the list, the best movie that had the most true things in the movie.
Wait a minute. I know. Bridge of Spies.
Bridge of Spies is not on this list. Wolf of Wall Street. Wolf of Wall Street.
What? Yeah.
Wolf of Wall Street is a true story. 73.8% of what happened in that movie is 100% true.
But that's based on that guy's recollection, and he did a lot of drugs.
Yeah, he did do a lot of drugs. That's true. The worst movie, by the way, at 35.7%. The Imitation Game, the movie about Alan Turing.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah,
That was
with
a wonderful
Benedict
movie.
Cumberbatch. Yeah, it was a good movie, but apparently only 35% of it were actually based on truth. So,
Spice things up sometimes.
yeah, you got to move it along.
We saw Bridge of Spies over the weekend, and it is large. I mean, I'd like to know. I think it must be like 80, 85% based on truth.
I'll have to see what the website says. It's not on the top of the list here, so I'll let you know.
All right.
I'll follow up.
Yes, indeed. I got to tell you, it is crazy. So, again, coming into Super Tuesday today, and on the Republican side, first of all, let's start. On the Democratic side, it's going to be there are 11 states and the territory of American Samoa. The predictions are that there are 889 delegates, by the way, up for grabs. And predictions are that Bernie Sanders, Bernie's expected to do very well, maybe even win up to 5 states: Oklahoma, Minnesota. Yes, Minnesota. I went out there and did my bit to help in Minnesota on Friday.
There you go.
Knocked on a few doors. Nobody was home. No, that was there for, of course, for the Blue State Ball. But Minnesota, Vermont, of course, home state where Bernie will be tonight for his victory party. Massachusetts. I always, when I do them out of order, I always get them mixed up. There's so let me look at my list here. Colorado.
There you go, Colorado.
Yeah. Colorado, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Oklahoma, and Vermont looking very good for Bernie. The other states, Hillary Clinton expected to win: Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, and Virginia. But remember, with the Democrats, you don't have to win to win all the delegates. It's not winner take all. As long as you get 15% at least in the state, you will get some delegates. So it's going to be the Democratic primary. The Democratic results today are going to be very interesting, but the Democratic primary will continue. On the Republican side, it could be all over today because Donald Trump is expected to sweep Super Tuesday, 11 out of 12 states, not win Texas, but maybe even win Texas. He's ahead by double digits in almost every state. Ted Cruz is ahead by like 1 or 2 points in Texas.
Yeah, it's really close in Texas.
By the way, Marco Rubio not expected to win any states at all. And so tomorrow he's going to go back to Florida and spend the next 2 weeks trying to make sure that he wins Florida on March 15.
Yeah.
You know, you can't, I don't care how many insults he can throw at Donald Trump. You can't get the nomination unless you win a primary.
Got to win something.
Yeah, right.
I mean, good grief.
And Rubio, a big mouth, but no win so far. The thing about Donald Trump is, and here's my question to you as we start off today, are Republicans really going to nominate a guy who will not and did not repudiate David Duke and the KKK? Here's Donald Trump again talking to Jake Tapper when Jake Tapper says, "You've been endorsed by David Duke, white supremacist. Will you repudiate that?" Donald Trump's response:
I don't know anything about David Duke, okay? I don't know anything about what you're even talking about with white supremacy or white supremacists. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Did he endorse me or what's going on?
Hello. So the first question, do you believe that at all? Can anybody believe that? It's simply not plausible. I mean, how can you be informed at all today in this country and not know the name David Duke? Former KKK leader, former candidate for governor of Louisiana, the number one best-known avowed racist white supremacist in the country, and you don't know the name David Duke? Bull.
Yeah, it's a lie.
It's a lie.
I mean, it's a lie.
It's a total lie. So then yesterday, Donald Trump goes on Morning Joe. By the way, Morning Joe, we all kidded about the fact that Joe Scarborough is trying to be Donald Trump's vice presidential running mate because he's been so kind to Donald Trump. Joe Scarborough yesterday said that statement by Donald Trump disqualifies him from as a candidate for president. But here's his lame excuse on Morning Joe yesterday.
I'm sitting in a house in Florida with a very bad earpiece that they gave me, and you could hardly hear what he was saying. But what I heard was various groups. I have a lousy earpiece that is provided by them.
It blames it on the earpiece. Well, how can he blame it on the earpiece when you listen to his answer, he says, I don't know about David Duke, about white supremacists that he endorsed me. He obviously heard David Duke, and he heard white supremacists. He heard the question. That's just a lame excuse. But we keep waiting, right? We keep waiting for the moment when Donald Trump's big mouth is finally going to get him in trouble. He's finally going to say something that will knock him out. Is this enough to do it? And shouldn't it be enough to do it? Mitt Romney also yesterday came out and said totally disgusting and totally disqualifies him from consideration as a candidate for president. Now, later he did say, okay, I disavow him. All right, big deal. I disavow him. Yeah, right, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but the idea that right away he didn't immediately say, I want nothing to do with David Duke, don't want his endorsement, thinks he's a disgusting human being, I'm not a racist, I'm not a white supremacist. And by the way, there's an article in the New York Times this morning about white supremacists are thrilled.
Oh, yeah.
Thrilled to have Donald Trump saying nice things. Even if he later repudiated it, they are just so excited.
White supremacists think that by not disavowing it in the first place was sort of a, little bit of a dog whistle, and then, oh, well, of course he has to walk it back later because everybody freaked out. But we, wink, 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 we know whose side he's on, right? He's playing right to them.
Yeah. And by the way, that's the same day that he retweeted by mistake, right? The Benito Mussolini. Yeah. The headline in the Post, that's our Times I was just looking for. Trump's message resonates with white supremacists. Oh, is this it? Will this knock Donald Trump out? Is any way you can give him a pass saying he had a bad earpiece? Really? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Today, in this country, we are having a conversation about police violence, the killing of black men, and what all that means. It is sad that this is happening and that every day there's a new incident to cause us to keep thinking about it and talking about it. But it is extraordinary that the American people are having to deal with this every day, whether you're watching CNN or MSNBC, Fox, or ABC News. All the news channels are talking about police violence and what does that mean against black people. Many people probably look at that, certainly have looked at it in the past, and they have said that these poor black men are doing bad things, and that's why they are ending up in confrontations with police without any understanding of their lives of these poor black young men. Part of what has been going on for decades is that poor black people live in communities that suffer from hyper-surveillance of the police. The police are more likely to be in their communities. The police are more likely to arrest them. The police are more likely to stop them even if they're not doing anything. And that is what is so hard for the American people to believe, that you would get stopped and searched and arrested by the police and not doing anything. But this is starting to come out as people are telling the stories over and over again. But this has been the condition, this hyper-surveillance by police, making it more likely for people to get a record, to be known by the police, and then once they get in the system, it is almost impossible to get out because of the whole system of being on parole and missing an appointment or fraternizing with a person who has a criminal record, getting you right back in the jail, and then going back again and again and again. This is coming to be seen by the American people in a way that it has never been seen before. But why are people in these communities in the first place? That's getting peeled away. People are there because of housing discrimination. They are there because this is the only place where affordable housing can be found. They are there because that's where their families live, and people are drawn to being in communities where they are comfortable. The combination keeps people in these low-income communities where they are an easy target for hyper-surveillance and then everything that comes from it. And so as we think about these issues, we have to understand that while you as an individual in this society, as a white individual, you may not carry personal racism, but that does not keep the system from operating in a racist way.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, Donald Trump refuses, the first time around, at any rate. He gets it on the rebound, but first time around refuses to repudiate David Duke and Duke's endorsement as the leading white supremacist, which of course gave Marco Rubio, in this case, a good reason to pounce on Donald Trump.
Why wouldn't you just say it right away at the moment? You say David Duke to me, I say racist immediately. Why wouldn't he condemn the Ku Klux Klan?
Yes, David Duke. We all know David Duke. I covered the David Duke, Edwin Edwards campaign down in Louisiana when they were running for governor, and everybody knew that Edwards was corrupt. Edwards, I think, at the time was under indictment. And I'll never forget the bumper stickers. It was the crook versus the Nazi and KKK member. And the bumper stickers for Edwin Edwards actually said, "Vote for the crook. It's important."
I love it.
That's the one time, right? Vote for the crook. Better a crook than the KKK. Yeah, right.
It's a good point.
Hello, Donald. Are you listening? Will this kill Donald Trump?
This is the Bill Press Show.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi.
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
calls me googly eyes.
And you know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
That's
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
Can't catch the entire show? Listen to BP in 3, where we turn 3 hours into 3 minutes. Find it every day at BP Show on Twitter or at BillPressShow.com.
All right, you got it 33 minutes after the hour. How about it? It is the Bill Press Show on Super Tuesday, March 1, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., and our studio on Capitol Hill, where we're brought to you today by the American Federation of Government Employees, the good men and women of the AFGE. Went by their office the other day, said hello to President J. David Cox. Doing great job keeping our government running every single day. We salute them for their good work and direct you to their website to find out more about the AFGE at afge.org. Super Tuesday, doesn't keep Arthur Delaney away. He's on the job. Probably already went out and voted in 2 or 3 states already.
Why would it keep me away?
Well, you know.
It's not a snowstorm.
No, that's right. Snowstorms would keep you away, right? But so what do you think today? Today's a big day, both sides, right? Donald Trump going to clean up today? Is this it?
Yeah, there's not a lot of uncertainty about who's going to win, barring massive surprises. Donald Trump's going to win.
On the Republican side.
Yeah.
Except maybe not Texas.
Right.
I think he could even win Texas.
He thinks he could maybe win Texas.
Wouldn't it be a kick if he won Texas?
I would never stop laughing if he beats Ted Cruz in his home state.
Right.
Yes, it would be humorous.
Well, it would be
humor.
It would be the end of Ted Cruz. I mean, because Cruz figured that his strategy was the Southern strategy,
Yeah.
Trump from New York, you might get some of the upper states and everything with his anti-China message, maybe in the Midwest. But Trump's going to sweep the South and maybe even Texas. So if that happens, wouldn't you agree? I think he already is, but if he sweeps, runs the table today, he's unstoppable.
That's the conventional wisdom, and we've learned.
Shared by Arthur Delaney?
Yes.
All right.
Well, what do I know? I'm conventional. So, yeah, he's going to be unstoppable unless something unpredictable happens, and I think he's an unpredictable person. I still wonder if something would cause him to just walk off the stage in a huff.
Well, how about this? Maybe if he refused to repudiate David Duke, that would, be the thing that.
Yeah, some people have said, "Oh, this is
knocks him out.
This is Trump's Waterloo," which I do not understand at all. It's it's about as offensive as lots of things that we once thought would be a problem for him, but only made him stronger.
Yeah, I don't understand why this is getting so much attention as possibly being hurtful to Trump. I really don't.
Well, it's because it's something that Marco Rubio.
I don't think it's going to hit him. This is the media in the eyes of his people. This is the media attacking Trump again.
Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz have seized on it. That's what's different about this. But I don't see how that is going to have an effect.
That's the only one. Mitt Romney, Joe Scarborough. I mean.
Oh yeah. Well, he actually had repudiated David Duke. He had done it
2 days before. Right.
Yeah, and 14 years before, he wouldn't go on the Reform Party. So that's what it was even stranger. It wasn't really a non-repudiation. It's a very deliberate strategy of not wanting to offend the KKK.
I think we have learned that there is no Waterloo for Donald Trump.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I think he would have to decide he doesn't want to do it anymore, which was something I thought could always happen a while ago. Now, maybe not so much.
I think the one clear sign that anybody looking for his Waterloo is the main story in the New York Times this morning. Democrats prepare a Trump battle plan. The Hillary Clinton forces have had several meetings. Bill Clinton was involved in one of them, deciding what is the best strategy to tackle and defeat Donald Trump in November. They're already planning that. I would suggest that maybe their first plan ought to be how to win the Democratic primary, which is by no means certain. So let's talk on the Democratic side. Bernie Sanders expected to do well today in Oklahoma, Minnesota, Colorado, Massachusetts, and Vermont. Keeps him alive?
Sure, but people are starting to get ready for Bernie Death Watch, it seems, because he did so poorly among African Americans in South Carolina that he doesn't seem to have the coalition he would need.
I would invite you then to read those people who say that to read my column in The Hill today, thehill.com, that the Democratic race is hardly ever. These people are totally they don't know what they're talking about. I'd have to say. I mean,
tell us, Bill.
The Democratic primary is not winner take all, right?
Yeah.
The Democratic primary is. And remember 2008.
But is he going to run out of money?
Very good question. The answer to that is hell no.
Because
they report today that in February, Bernie Sanders raised $42 million.
So he's flush.
Totally. He's got more disposable cash, not super PAC money, because he doesn't have a PAC. It doesn't have a super PAC, doesn't have a PAC. He's got more money than Hillary Clinton does. He's not going to drop. The only reason candidates drop out is because of money. So, but back to what I was saying, you don't have to win every state. Hillary Clinton proved that in 2008. All you have to do is do well enough in a state to win delegates. You keep piling up delegates, and you're still alive. Bernie Sanders has the money. He'll have enough delegates to go, I think, all the way to the convention. But the people who said this is the end of the road for Bernie are the same ones who said in New Hampshire, this is the end of the road for Hillary. The wheels, the wheels are coming off the Hillary wagon.
People were saying that?
Yes.
I mean, I
they're
think
nuts. The media always wants to.
Yeah.
They want a finality to something.
Conflict.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
You know how this goes. It's all about momentum, right? I think right now it would be safe to say Hillary Clinton has some good momentum.
Yes,
She won a huge race. in South Carolina and Nevada. But, we all know how quickly things move in politics. If Bernie
wins 5 states
wins a couple
today,
big states today, then the narrative changes again.
5 states.
The Clinton people expect him to win 5 to 8 states over the next 2 weeks. I mean, and that's not the end of the road.
Well, we're going to see who wants it more. It could all come down to turnout.
Oh, God.
Well,
Perfect.
No, but that, you joke, but that's really the answer. Turnout. The bigger the turnout, the better it is for Bernie.
Republicans are having much better turnout.
They are.
As these primaries go on, which should be very concerning, shouldn't it?
It is troubling for Democrats.
Like if Donald Trump can turn out white voters in the Rust Belt and take those states from Democrats.
In Nevada, there were 80,000 people turned out for the caucuses. In 2008, with Barack Obama, 120,000 people Democrats turned out for the caucuses. And turnout was down in New Hampshire. It was down in Iowa as well. I haven't seen the numbers in South Carolina, but in each of those states, Republican turnout set all new records.
Yeah.
So the Republicans are up, Democrats are down in terms of
So presumably that is part of the battle plan,
which is troubling.
Yeah.
Because you look ahead to November, turnout could very well make the difference. But just one final word on this idea that people say that it's all over. Even after South Carolina, 4 states down, 46 states to go, with the vast majority of delegates still to be decided. So, no, it's still alive. But Marco Rubio, we've seen a new Marco Rubio.
Yes.
Now. Since the other night when he went full bore and he's basically trying to out-Trump Trump. You talked to some comedians about this?
That's right. We interviewed some big comedians, Trayvon Free with the Daily Show, and Rob Delaney, who's got his own show, Catastrophe. And
it's a great show, by the way.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
It's a really great show.
And so Rubio is making dick jokes about Donald Trump. He's insulting him every way he can. And I thought he was pretty funny, but these comedians think he basically sucks. And it's not.
What do they say about him?
Professional quality humor.
Right.
I mean, to me, like, one of his jokes was Donald Trump's running around saying he wants to make America great again. I think he's going to make America orange again. Like, that's the equivalent of the George Costanza. Yeah, well, the jerk store called, and they're running out of you. It's not a good joke.
Rob Delaney said he will never be funny. He has no conviction, no authority, no confidence. Mitt Romney is funnier.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a pretty low blow.
He said you have to care about something to be funny. What does Marco Rubio care about? His own career? So that was Rob Delaney's burn.
No, I think Rubio's fallen flat in terms of he just throws these lines out there, but I don't think they score. And I don't think, certainly he's not funny. I don't think he's effective either. He's trying to out Trump, making fun of accusing him of wetting his pants. Right. Yeah, I mean,
like, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds of analyzing comedy too much, but part of doing stand-up and part of being a comic, when you hear a lot of people talk about it that are good at it, is establishing an identity right off the bat, right? Like, you have to establish your identity with the first couple of opening jokes. And Marco Rubio has established his identity as one guy this whole race, and all of a sudden he's working blue, right? Like out of nowhere. Yeah. He just starts making, like, borderline inappropriate jokes.
Trayvon Free. Well, speaking of inappropriate, Trayvon Free from The Daily Show said, "This is the joke that can destroy Donald Trump. It's not clear a politician can make it, but you have to talk about."
Are you allowed to say this on the radio? I'm getting a little nervous.
It's not
here.
a cuss word.
Oh,
it's this thing, and you now.
Is it a body part?
It's not a body part.
Oh, all right.
Okay. All right, we're okay. Jamie, get ready in case.
Get ready.
Have the dump button.
He said you have to talk about how Donald Trump wants to bang his daughter.
Yeah.
And
that is weird.
You can see there is this. He has made very strange comments about Ivanka's attractiveness, and
Yeah.
he said things like, if I weren't married,
Right.
and she weren't my daughter,
Yeah, two big ifs, right?
but yeah,
Those are gigantic ifs.
but that would be a really weird line of attack for a professional politician. Like only a comedian could really go there without getting too much splashback.
Stay tuned. Marco Rubio might try.
He made the dick jokes.
After today. 866-55-PRESS. You know the toll-free number. Arthur Delaney here with us. And Arthur, the latest on Flint. We have to catch up with the big Democratic debate coming up in Flint next week. 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at Facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
A letter to the girl I used to be. Dear Emily, every time I watch baseball, a voice I no longer recognize whispers, Ethan, do you remember? When you were going to be the first girl to play in the Major League Seattle Mariners rally cap. But to be honest, Emily, I don't. Dad told me that like it was someone else's bedtime story. But I do know you had that drive. Didn't let anyone tell you to wear shorts above your knees. Didn't care if boys thought your hair fell on your shoulders just right, but with girls, sleepovers meant the space between your shoulder and hers was a 6-inch fatal territory. The year you turned 11 was the first time you said out loud that you didn't want to live anymore. In therapy, you said you wouldn't make it to 21. On my 21st birthday, I thought about you. You were right. At 19, you started to fade. I tried to cross you out like a line in my memoir I wished I could erase completely. And maybe I'm misunderstanding the definition of death, but even though parts of you still exist, you are not here. Most of my friends have never heard your name until now. I've been trying to write this letter for 6 months. I still can't decide if it should be an apology or not. But now you will never hear Emily Smith announced at a college graduation. Get married. Give birth. When the prescribed testosterone started taking effect, my body stopped producing the potential for new life every month. I thought about your children, how I wanted them too. I let a doctor remove your breasts so that I could stand up straighter. Now, even if I somehow had those children, I wouldn't be able to nourish them. My body is obsolete, scarred cosmetic, but never C-section. I was 4 days late. They will never be grandparents. I was 1 week late. They will never hold their lover's sleeping figure. I was 11 days late. They will never breathe in a sunset and a sunrise in the same night. I was 2 weeks late. They will never learn to jump rope. I was 3 weeks late. They will never shout, "Watch, Mommy, watch me on the slide." I was 2 months late. A piece of us will never wrap their arms around our leg for comfort, but just to keep them from falling down. And I am sorry that this process is so slow, and all you can do is wonder if you ever had a place. You did. You still do. Don't forget that. Yours, Ethan. P.S. I never hated you.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go now, 11 minutes before the top of the hour. Kyle Kondik from the University of Virginia Center for Politics here in studio with us in the next half hour. He will go down both the Republican and the Democratic primaries today on Super Tuesday, state after state after state, and tell us what we can expect. We'll get the full GOP and Democratic maps from Kyle Kondik. Arthur Delaney here now from Huffington Post on this historic day the day after the historic day when Clarence Thomas spoke from the bench for the first time in 10 years. I guess he figures, hey, Scalia's gone, now I can get a word in edgewise, right?
Well, yeah, it must have taken that as an opportunity to break this tradition that he'd established for himself.
I want to be the new Nino or whatever. Yeah.
I think it based on what I've read, maybe it just had more to do with, like, I need to talk. Like, I need a reason to be able to begin talking again.
10 years?
Grief does funny things to people.
Yeah.
You're right.
Maybe just overcome.
So, what is the latest on Flint, Mr. Delaney? We've talked about it several times. You're the man. Here's what Congress is doing about lead pipes in Flint and elsewhere, is the lead on your Huffington Post story. What are they doing?
Well, they're working on this legislation that would make some money available for states to get loans to either deal with and mitigate a Flint-like situation, and presumably Flint could get some of this money if it becomes law, and a separate pot of money they could use to fix their water infrastructure, to dig up the lead pipes that are poisonous and that are a health risk whenever they're in use, which is all the time and everywhere. And what's interesting
and
about
replace them with, I come back to that question we've talked about before.
Some other material. It could be copper, plastic. You could even have earthenware pipes, but I don't.
Yeah, right. If you were in Pompeii.
I don't think that's the pipe of choice. But anyway, lots of materials other than lead, which is cheap and fun to work with, but poison.
We know about Flint, and not taking anything away from the people of Flint who've been right on the front lines and suffering this and are going to be for months, if not years. This is bigger than Flint, isn't it?
That's right. And what's amazing about this is everyone is paying attention to Flint, has paid attention to Flint. We had a poll. We said,
finally,
are you following this at least a little closely? And nearly 60% of people in the poll said yes. So this is a reckoning with lead pipes and the problem of water lead poisoning that has never happened in history, because it's always been poo-pooed as not the biggest problem, or potentially not even a problem at all. Here in Washington, D.C., they say to this day that it's not clear anyone got hurt when the water lead levels spiked enormously more than 10 years ago. They don't even admit that people got hurt. In Flint, everyone in the world knows about it. So Congress has this, what I think is a big opportunity to do something.
And they might actually do something.
Well, this bill is not up to the scale of the problem. It's potentially hundreds of millions of dollars, when replacing all the lead pipes in America is probably more like tens of billions of dollars. Huh? And they're not addressing the regulation that says leave the pipes in the ground. Don't dig them up. Take action if water lead goes up. And so just keep an eye on the water. It's a regulation that local utilities can game pretty easily, which we saw happen in Flint. So I think people who are experts on this consider this Flint legislation good, but they wish that there would be something addressing the actual regulation. There is legislation that does that, but it's not really moving like the Flint stuff is.
So last question quickly. The rest of the country, is municipal drinking water tested everywhere so that people can have some comfort that the water that they're giving their kids or they're drinking themselves is safe?
It's tested, but what assurance do you have that they're testing it correctly? Are they testing it at the most dangerous parts? They weren't in Flint, and the regulation allows a certain amount of lead to be in the water in a certain number of homes before they do anything. So really, you should test your own water if you want to consider it safe.
What do? Gotta buy a test
kit?
You
gotta buy a test kit, or some municipalities will give you one, but it's like really up to you. It's kind of alarming, but that's the law.
I'm alarmed.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I hate to end on that note, but on that
sorry, bro.
On that alarming note, Arthur Delaney, thank you, I guess, for coming in today. See you next week.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
So you're drowning in student debt, and it looks like there's no way out. Have you considered bankruptcy? Of course not. It's a dirty word, and everything you've heard says students can't file anyway. It didn't start that way. Bankruptcy laws were enacted in the 19th century to give people a fresh start. But not all debt is created equal. Take this, for example. We have you, your buddy Carlos, and your grandma Lucy. Carlos got laid off. His credit card debt was too much to handle, so he filed for bankruptcy. Will totally screw his credit, but at least he can start fresh, and after 10 years, his credit report should be fine. Grandma Lucy's home lost half its value. Now her mortgage isn't worth paying back. She says F it and decides to file for bankruptcy too. Then there's you. You didn't land that dream job, you're struggling to make ends meet, but the interest just keeps piling up. With a broken heart, you've written off the possibility of buying a home, having kids, and getting married because, hello, who wants to deal with your crazy baggage? But in reality, you want those things, and your education was supposed to get you there. Now you need a fresh start, just what bankruptcy was intended for. You try to file, like Carlos and Grandma Lucy, and that's when you realize it's not as easy for you as it was for them. In the 70s, Congress worried that students were using bankruptcy to abuse loan programs. That wasn't quite true. Still, over the years, Congress gradually stripped student debtors of their options. The Bankruptcy Reform Act of 1978 was even called discriminatory toward students by the chairman of the subcommittee. Student debt was singled out and lumped with criminal debts. Today, if student debtors try filing for bankruptcy anyway, they'll need to prove their debt imposes an undue hardship. But who's to say what qualifies as an undue hardship? Even some judges have said they don't get it. This lack of clarity in the law could work in your favor. A Harvard researcher discovered in 2012 that few students actually try to discharge their loans through bankruptcy. Of the students who filed for bankruptcy to settle other debts, only 0.1% try the same tactic on their school debt. The craziest part? Just under half of them got their debts fully or partially discharged. In other words, you can file for bankruptcy on your student loans. Depending on your situation, it might just be a matter of trying. At least there's that.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, we got a little change of pace here on a Super Tuesday. Igor Volsky will be along later in the program. We let him sleep in this morning so we could talk to Kyle Kondik from the Center for Politics down at the University of Virginia. And a little bit later in the show, we'll be joined by Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, a Hillary Clinton supporter, and Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, a Bernie Sanders supporter. I got to tell you, we have Super Tuesday covered here on the Bill Press Show. So
this
hang in there,
is the
stay
Bill
with us.
Press Show.
All right, guys, I want to take the last part of the day to change our focus and talk a little bit about water. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's huge oceans. You get thirsty, you just go and you get some water, right? We rely on rain for our water. We even rely on snow. But what if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. I want you to tell your parents, your friends, your neighbors, how important it is to save water. It's up to you guys to save the planet. All right? What if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. It's up to you guys to save the planet.
Hi, I'm Mark LaFleur, and I produced the short film you just watched called Aquaforce. California is experiencing one of the worst droughts it's ever had, and now, more than ever, it's important for everyone to do their part to help conserve water. The reason I made this film is because I wanted to make something fun and informative that would get people talking about the California drought. Obviously, this is an important issue because we have a limited amount of clean drinking water. I think it was very important to let people know, especially young people, that this is an important resource, maybe our most important resource, and it's something that we can't take for granted and we certainly can't waste. I really wanted this to be something that children would respond to. The kind of thing that any kid anywhere in the world, no matter what language they speak, could understand the story and be entertained by it and leave it knowing that this is something important, that if they didn't already know about this, that it's now going to be a part of the way that they think about water, the way that they live life, and that it's something that they'll share with their friends. The fact that they watch this video once or twice and they immediately understand that water is important, that's it. That was the whole point of this thing, to get it into the conversation, to make it something that kids are thinking about, talking about, that they're aware of, and that they know is important. This project was self-funded, so we relied on the support of our community to make it happen. It was pretty amazing to just have our neighbors, our friends, and our coworkers come together and volunteer their time and their homes and their kids to make this thing happen. Thanks for checking out the video. Keep the Aquaforce going, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
Around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
$42 million. Yep, that's the month of February in small contributions only for Bernie Sanders. Another world record. Average contribution, $30. Who needs a PAC? Who needs a super PAC? Bernie sure doesn't. Hello, everybody. On Super Tuesday, off we go here with the Bill Press Show. So good to see you today. Thank you for being with us, and look forward to hearing from you about how things look in your state. 11 or 12 of them up today. 866-55-PRESS, you know the toll-free number. And you can always send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show. Some of the polls have already opened in some states. So on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Nobody knows the electoral map better than Kyle Kondik and his sidekick, Larry Sabato. We put you on top now, Kyle, from the Center for Politics down at the University of Virginia. Hello, Kyle. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
Yeah. So you cranking the numbers already?
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
got your scouts out there?
That's right, yeah. You know, it's funny. We have this really slow start to the process, you know, just the 4 carve-out states in February this time.
Right.
All small states, too. You know, South Carolina is the biggest one, and it's not particularly big. And then you have this flood of states. About 600 delegates are going to be awarded on the Republican side today.
And almost 900 on the Democratic side.
Yeah, and you have, you said 11 states on the Republican side, 12 on the Democratic, and a lot of major states today.
Yeah, and then, of course, 2 weeks, March 15, which is another big one. So
Super Tuesday Part 2.
Exactly. It's a so-called SEC primary. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson leading a team here again today. Peter, welcome back.
Hey.
Good morning.
Ray Rogers, she's on the phone and ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding, of course, our videographer, on the job here, keeping us looking good on Free Speech TV and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV. You know, the flap still continues. Did Donald Trump hear what Jake Tapper asked him or not when he said he didn't know anything about David Duke and white supremacists didn't know what he was talking about? Donald Trump blames it on a bad earpiece.
You know, I just... Even when Trump has supposedly disavowed the David Duke comments, I mean, it's not really believable. I mean, you know, I feel like if most people were getting endorsed by a white supremacist, they would be a little more aggressive about. I mean, really, I don't know.
Don't you think? Right? And
Yeah.
don't you think? Everybody knows who David Duke is. I mean, by
Trump.
now.
We know that Trump knows who David Duke is because he's talked about him in the past.
Right. So Stephen Colbert is one last night who didn't buy the earpiece excuse.
I'm sitting in a house in Florida with a very bad earpiece that they gave me, and you could hardly hear what he was saying. But what I heard was various groups. I have a lousy earpiece that is provided by them.
Yes, he blames this one on the earpiece, though I think he should take some responsibility for the mouthpiece. Also, maybe the hairpiece.
Earpiece, mouthpiece, hairpiece. He's got it. All right. Kyle with us for the first half hour here, and you'll know more about Super Tuesday than you wanted to know at the end of the half hour. Then we'll be joined by Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, a Hillary Clinton supporter, and Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, the newest Bernie Sanders supporter. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. The New Hampshire Union Leader, a big newspaper, weighed in during the primaries, and they endorsed Chris Christie whenever the primary was going on. Remember that?
Yeah,
remember that. Well, over the weekend, Joseph W. McQuaid, the publisher of the Union Leader, wrote an editorial that starts out like this. Boy, were we wrong. We endorsed Chris Christie in the New Hampshire presidential primary, and then he went on to lay out why they regret that and why Chris Christie has proven himself to be nothing more than a political opportunist. This all is tied around his endorsement of Donald Trump at the end of last week. And they are walking back their endorsement and saying, we got that one wrong.
But who are they endorsing now?
Nobody yet. They didn't get into all that because this was specifically about like them putting their backing behind.
They're going to wait until after today.
Well, it goes to show that I'm a former newspaper person myself, but I don't know if newspaper endorsements matter all that much, given how Christie did.
Right. Right. That's a very good point. How about this? If you're looking for a new job, NASA will pay you $18,000, and all you have to do is stay in bed and smoke weed for 70 days.
I'm on.
Yeah, like the show is going to go on hiatus. We're all going to fight each other for this job. Here's the deal, though. They've done studies like this before where they put people on bed rest for 70 days to study how sort of atrophy, how the body works with all that, because it sort of simulates what it's like to be in space because you're not really using your muscles as much. But they want to use and see how marijuana use will affect your muscles as you are inactive, if it makes any difference. So they said it's 70 days straight. You lay in bed. They're going to give you all different kinds of cannabis, by the way. They want you to try all different kinds of pot, and $18,000 is what they will pay you. You can read, by the way, they say you could read books, you can Skype, you can play games, and of course, smoke pot. You can do anything you want to do as long as you stay in bed.
At a previous job, there was like a drug awareness training, and they talked about how, if you smoked weed, and they talked about this experiment where like fighter pilots smoke weed, and then they gave them a test a week later, and it was still in their system. And I'm thinking, my job was not really that intensive. My performance was off just a little bit. Right. At the typewriter, not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
so
right.
I didn't find that one particularly compelling.
And finally, yesterday was Leap Day, and Arby's, the fast food chain, they sort of got in on the fun of Leap Day, and they unveiled a vegetarian menu for Leap Day. Now, we all know that Arby's is known...
April Fool's Day.
Yeah, right. They're known for making their roast beef sandwiches, but this is how they wrote it up for their vegetarian menu. A loaded Italian sandwich with melted cheese, banana peppers, shredded lettuce, tomato and red onion with red wine vinaigrette, and garlic aioli on a toasted Italian-style roll. Minus the delicious thinly sliced ham, succulent salami, and delicious pepperoni that made this one of the most popular sandwiches launched in Arby's history. So they offered a vegan menu, but also stuck it to the vegans a little bit about what they were missing.
Yeah, just so you know.
Well played, Arby's.
Yeah, that was their one-day menu.
All right, now 13 minutes after the hour. Let's start, Kyle, on the Republican side. How many states and how's it look?
So we've got 11 states voting, although there are actually 14 because there are a few caucuses that they happen, but the voters really don't have any say in them in Colorado, North Dakota, and Wyoming. It really looks like Donald Trump is favored in every state.
But do the delegates count?
The delegates count, but the voters don't have any control in selecting them. So I think they're
11
essentially
states
free agents.
up for grabs. Then,
11
right?
states up for grabs. Yes. I just wanted to make it a little bit more confusing. So
it is confusing. And so we have Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Oklahoma. I'm reading here from the New York Times. Tennessee, Virginia, Texas, the big prize there. Alaska, Massachusetts, Minnesota, and Vermont. That's 11. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it looks like Ted Cruz is probably favored in Texas. I guess if there's an upset, we might see Trump actually win Texas. And I think Trump is favored in every other state. Now, some of these places we don't really have polling, like the caucus in Alaska, the caucus in Minnesota. Also, I know that Rubio is making a push in our home state of Virginia. I don't think that means that that Rubio can win Virginia, but maybe he would come close.
Are these winner take all on the Republican side?
No, although in some places they're kind of winner take most. In some states there are delegate thresholds you have to meet. So if you get like 15% to 20%. So for instance, in Texas, if Rubio can get over 20% in a lot of the congressional districts, Cruz, Trump, and Rubio would split one delegate apiece in these places. So you don't necessarily have to win, but you do need to meet these thresholds so you don't get shut out in some of these states. And, for instance, John Kasich was in Tennessee over the weekend. John Kasich's polling at like 5 or 6% in Tennessee. You need 20% to get delegates. So unless they know something that we don't, I don't necessarily know why he was there. So that's, part of the strategy is going where you can, maximize your delegates. Now, Kasich was in Vermont yesterday, and that might be a little bit better of a state for him. But, what's amazing is that Trump is poised to win in states as diverse as Alabama and Georgia, and also Vermont and Massachusetts. I mean, think about that. Mitt Romney wouldn't have been able to do that.
Right.
And so whatever you may say about Trump, he has shown a pretty wide appeal in the Republican Party.
All right, so Trump is going to maybe run the board, right? But what happens if Ted Cruz does not win Texas?
I don't see how he would have a justification to stay in the race, frankly. Now, I think that he might stay in anyway, just as a resistance to Trump. I think a lot of these, Rubio and Cruz and Kasich may try to fight all the way to the convention. But I think Cruz's campaign has already been a pretty big disappointment so far because he was built to compete in the South, which has the most conservative electorate and the most evangelical Christian electorates. And the fact that Ted Cruz didn't get a single delegate out of South Carolina, which is about a two-thirds white evangelical Christian, I think was a pretty bad development for his campaign. And think of some of these other states, Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, again, conservative Republican electorates, evangelical electorates. Trump is probably going to win most of those states, all those states. And that was where Cruz was supposed to do well because the map doesn't look as good for him going forward. A lot more states that look like New Hampshire, where he didn't do so well, as opposed to southern states.
All right. Then what happens to Marco Rubio if he does not win any state today? And the chances are he is not going to win any state today.
So I think that Rubio can credibly stay in because he's got Florida waiting for him, even though Trump is leading in Florida right now. I think that the Rubio camp hopes that they get some delegates out of today, which they will, just see how many. But they need to spend 8 figures on television in Florida. And I think it's starting a little bit, but clock's ticking. Now, I do think that with a sustained television ad campaign, you might be able to knock Trump down a little bit. It's just how campaigns work, although maybe the rules, you can just throw them all out with Trump. But Rubio has to win Florida to really have a credible chance of actually getting the number of delegates you need.
So he could survive not winning a state today?
Yes, he can.
But,
and Kasich could too, because it doesn't look like Kasich's going to win a state today either.
Kasich won't either.
And Ben Carson won't either.
Well, let's forget about that. Forget about Ben
Carson's going to finish ahead of Kasich in some places, for what it's worth.
But so they say it's a 3-man race now. Do you agree with that? Really?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kasich is still a factor because he could hypothetically win Ohio, but even then, I don't know what that really does for him. I think he may even be playing for this contested convention two.
But what gets me about Rubio is, with all the attention to Rubio, and I'll say this, since he's taken on Trump, Cruz has faded, and now it's really, some people are saying it's a two-man race. But, Rubio has not won, or at least Ted Cruz won one primary.
Yeah.
Rubio, he can't get the nomination without winning some state, right?
One would think so. I mean, I think that the idea is that he wins Florida and then he can kind of start winning after that. But
what's left after that?
Well, I mean, there's about 60% of the Republican delegates will be allocated by March. So after the states vote on March 15th, again, big states: Ohio, Florida, Illinois, North Carolina, Missouri. After that date, about 60% of the delegates have been allocated. So this is a big 2-week period here. Part of it is it's almost like Kasich isn't conservative enough and Rubio's too conservative. I think that's a big problem for him, that Rubio gets put in this moderate establishment camp. Right. He is not moderate. He's really not establishment. And I think he's a talented candidate. Don't get me wrong, but there's a reason why Trump is doing so well amongst moderates, and part of it is, if you put the immigrant bashing aside, is that he's really not that economically conservative, and I think that's actually appealing to a significant part of the GOP.
All right, and then we'll jump over to the Democratic side when we come back, and we add American Samoa to the mix. I don't think any candidate has been there this time around, but they're voting today. We won't wait up to find out how American Samoa votes. But Kyle Kondik here with us, run us through the Democratic side, Bernie's chances and Hillary's chances when we come back.
Your place to talk about the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
This is the story of my grandfather. When I was 19 years old, his right hand was crushed in a printing press. He was supposed to lose the hand, but a young doctor saved it just in time for the war. This is the story of the war. My grandfather repaired tanks. Behind the front lines, away from the cameras, he would pull pieces of dead men from the machines and send the machines back out to the field. This is the story of the war a decade later. Back then, you didn't talk about depression. There was no such thing as PTSD. When my uncle, age 7, asked him who won the war, my grandfather said, nobody. This is the story of my grandfather, the machinist. I have a newspaper from 1981, a story about the Nobel Prize for Physics, a photograph of the winner, a Harvard man standing by his machines. This man is not my grandfather. Beneath the photo, my grandfather has written, I designed and built almost everything in this picture. They worked together for 10 years, but my grandmother says the physicist never even remembered his name. If you asked that Harvard man, there would be no story of my grandfather, just a pair of disembodied hands. This is the problem with stories. They have to leave something out. The editor cuts a line and someone's face fades. The editor says 200 words or less and suddenly a whole family goes missing. The spotlight isn't about the light, it's how it makes everything around it dark. My grandfather's face is erased from every story. The machines survive, but the man who made them doesn't. The machines make the photo, but their maker is out of frame. But we choose where to point the camera. We can choose how to tell the story. We can choose which clothing the hero wears. I could tell you this is a story about a soldier, or I could tell you this is a story about the blue-collar man, but really, this is just the story of my grandfather. I did not know him. I was born too late, but my family tells me his name. Alfred Franzosa. I know that name might only live in this moment, that there are other stories with greater stakes, but still, I will tell you his name. I will repair this old machine. I will let my grandfather live again because I could not know him while he was living. Once, when he was younger than I am now, his right hand was crushed by a printing press, crushed by other people's stories. When it healed, he began to build. He used his hands to build tanks and his hands to build cradles. His hands were the last thing to touch dead soldiers and the first to touch his newborn sons. He built a good family, and that family built me, and now I use my hands to build his story. The story is not a eulogy. A eulogy seals the casket. A eulogy lets no air out. This story is a resurrection. Jesus was not resurrected by God. He was brought back by the people who told his stories. It does not take a miracle to raise the dead, to leave behind the tombstone and take the name with you.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, 25 minutes after the hour, Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky coming up at the half hour here with Kyle Kondik from the Center for Politics, centerforpolitics.org down at the University of Virginia. All right, on the Democratic side, 11 states, and some people are saying, tell me it's not true. I don't believe it's true that the Bernie Sanders campaign is all over because he lost so badly in South Carolina.
I don't know if it's over. Obviously he's got so much money to continue, and the fact that the Democratic delegates are awarded proportionally will allow him to get delegates out of every state. In fact, the candidate who might not get any delegates out of a state today is Clinton in Vermont. Because polls show that there's a 15% viability threshold,
yeah, right?
And Sanders is. I just looked at the average. I think it's 85-9 or something in the average. There's just been a few polls of Vermont, but
all right. So how many states out of 11 Bernie could win?
I would say 4 would probably be the max. Or maybe I guess 5 would be the absolute max because Sanders is going to win Vermont, of course, by a ton.
He's going to win Minnesota.
I don't know if we have any data there.
I just came back from Minneapolis,
okay.
dude.
All right.
He's going to win Minnesota.
Caucus State, probably.
Our friends out of KTNF AM 950 in Minneapolis, they're going to deliver Minnesota for Bernie.
I would say that Minnesota would probably be a decent target for him. Caucuses in Colorado, potentially.
Looks good, yeah.
And then Oklahoma, interestingly.
He's been to Oklahoma twice. That surprised me when he went to Oklahoma.
Yeah, so he has the most recent poll there. He was up by 5 by really? Monmouth yesterday. And then Massachusetts, although Clinton has led recently in polling in Massachusetts. She's up about 7 points in the Real Clear Politics average. I think Massachusetts would be a pretty big win for Clinton if she could get it, because I think that's a state that Sanders by all rights should win in a close national race. The rest of the states, all the southern states, should go to Clinton by a mile.
Right. Now, by my math, those 5 states add up to 288 out of almost 900 delegates a day.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't win all of those states because, as you say, they're done proportionally.
Yeah.
But he's not going to. He'll get some delegates in some of those other states too, right?
Yeah, he'll get some delegates.
There's no reason why he cannot, with the money that he's got, continue to keep going.
That's right, and also, Sanders. I mean, we remember 2008. I mean, I think it was pretty clear,
right,
relatively early on, that Obama was, had the lead and was probably going to keep it. But Clinton decided to fight on, hoping that she could convince the superdelegates. And, the other thing is that I know that Sanders he's made the determination he's not going to make a big deal about the Clinton emails.
Right.
But couldn't that knock her from the race at some point? I mean, who knows? So, and maybe in that case, you see a Joe Biden get in or something like that. But there is still some uncertainty in the Democratic side, even though Clinton is set up to have a pretty good day on Super Tuesday.
Right. All right. Hey, Kyle, we see it a lot clearer now. Now all we got to do is wait for the votes to come in. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. See you again soon. Jan Schakowsky coming up next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go now at 33 minutes after the hour. Hello, hello, hello. It is the Bill Press Show on Super Tuesday. 11 states and American Samoa voting on the Democratic side today. And we're brought to you by the American Federation of Teachers, the great men and women of the AFT, Teachers of America, making a difference in the classrooms every day. You bet. Under President Randy Weingarten, we salute them for their good work. Thank them for their support of the program. Very, very excited that next Wednesday evening, I'm going to be in Chicago, Peter.
Yeah, that's right.
With a great big book event, and then broadcasting live from Chicago. the morning of March 10. I always love to get out to Chicago, but, maybe once, twice a year. But Chicago is taken great care of every single day by our good friend, Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, joining us on our newsline this morning. Congresswoman, good to talk to you.
Well, thank you, and welcome to Chicago next week.
I want some good weather, Congresswoman, next week. I'm not.
Well, we like our winter weather. We don't like this global warming thing.
So I should bring my overcoat. Is what you're telling me.
Sure.
Yeah, indeed. Let me do. Where do we start today? First of all, Super Tuesday. Illinois is not up today, but you still have an important Senate race in Illinois going on with Tammy Duckworth. How's it look?
Yes, I think Tammy's going to win. I am a big supporter. She's a national hero, and I think this is one of the seats that we can turn from red to blue. I absolutely think that this will contribute to the Democrats taking back the Senate.
Boy, that would be so exciting. She is so great. And on March 15 is when the Illinois primary on the Democratic side. I believe you're a big supporter of Hillary Clinton. How's it look for her in Illinois?
She's from the Chicago area.
Let's not forget.
Let's not forget that, and I think there's a good deal of support. Yes, we've got certainly have Bernie supporters, but I think Hillary will win with a comfortable margin in Illinois.
Do you think, Congresswoman, which are we going to see first? A new president of the United States or a new member of the Supreme Court of the United States?
I am actually optimistic that the Republicans are on such thin ice in trying to, 1 hour after Scalia passed away, Mitch McConnell was saying, no way. I mean, it's so inappropriate in every way, including a strict constitutionalist like Scalia would say it is very clear, no ambiguity. The president shall nominate and the Senate shall make a decision. I actually think we can even get a not only a hearing but a vote on this, because I think they know they could lose the Senate over this if they act so much against this president.
It seems if you talk about, let's tie back to the Senate race, right? I mean, there are senators like Mark Kirk and others who are up for re-election. They really want to be out there on a limb opposing, the president's going to name somebody eminently qualified, probably who's been confirmed recently by bipartisan majorities in the Senate, and Republicans really want to be hanging out there opposing them for the next 10 months. I think you're right. I think they'll have to fold.
So there's going to be a big campaign to really put pressure on the senators to make the right decision, and I think it can succeed because it is just so anti-American and anti-Constitution and disrespectful of this president, because that's never happened before.
No, and it's just unfair, which I think the American people will see, right?
Right, I agree.
Not even to they've said they won't even hold a meeting with them, right? I mean, won't even give them the courtesy of sitting down and shaking their hands and getting to know them. I don't see how that can hold. One other thing that troubles me, the Republicans, Congresswoman, just won't seem to let up on Planned Parenthood. What's the latest? Where does that stand now?
Well, tomorrow a lot, of course, is going on. There's the before the Supreme Court, now the 4-4 Supreme Court, this decision about Texas, where many, many more clinics could close, because that seems to be part of their effort, is to take away the health care from women. And at the same time, I'm the ranking Democrat on the select panel that will be looking into the issue of fetal tissue based on those doctor tapes that came out. But, Marsha Blackburn, who is the Republican chair of that committee, in their memo about our hearing said that we will be, quote, we will consider ethical issues that surround procurement and selling baby body parts. Now, if that phrase, baby body part, sounds familiar, it's because it was echoed by the murderer in Colorado Springs at the Planned Parenthood clinic. because the Republicans are on this witch hunt about fetal tissue and about Planned Parenthood. They are putting in danger the people involved in anything having to even to do with scientific research. And now, Bill, they have issued subpoenas asking for the names of researchers, the names of medical students, the names of providers of abortion services. They're building a database of people that could be part of this witch hunt and could be targeted for violence.
I mean, yeah. At what point do they cross the line, really?
They've crossed it.
Yeah, it seems to. But I mean, criminally, to inciting violence, and some people are going to hear those words and hear those charges and feel it's their duty to go out and take the law into their own hands.
And now, if the Republicans get their way, they will have the list of names and clinics and research institutions that are working on fetal tissue, which, of course, is a great thing to do. This is what we have used to get all, I mean, we're finding how we can cure Alzheimer's and diabetes, and the Republicans, since Ronald Reagan, have supported the idea of this very important research that's being done with the use of fetal tissue. Abortions aren't happening because they want to harvest this. It is because instead of throwing away this tissue, it can be used to save lives, and it has.
And those tapes and that whole idea that this is what Planned Parenthood does. I mean, it's been so, I thought, totally discredited.
There have been 3 House committees. There have been 12 states that have investigated. There was a grand jury that, rather than indicting Planned Parenthood, indicted their accusers, the people who developed those tapes that were erroneous. It's over. It's been decided, but they will not let go.
Well, I'm glad you're there fighting the good fight, Congresswoman, on behalf of all of us. Good luck with that crowd that you've got. Maybe,
Well, the American people and women in particular are watching, and they know what's going on.
Absolutely. All right, Congresswoman, we'll think of you next week in Chicago.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks so much for joining us.
Bye-bye.
The great Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky from Chicago, Illinois' 9th Congressional District. And Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard from Hawaii joins us next.
Follow us on Twitter at BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
It occurred to me tonight, for the first time, that the long-winged insect that over and over again rams its body into the wood of my front door might not know what he's doing. He might not have a plan. Maybe that's just how he flies, and that is where the door is. And I remember you. The last time I saw you, a few weeks before we would graduate from high school, and a few days before you let a bullet dissolve on your tongue, dancing in a warehouse rave, sweat-drenched and strobe light battered, thrashing your arms back and thrusting them forward. The floor could get so bright and loud, we all slowed down to be more careful, but you kept dancing full sprint tornado, and sometimes you'd spin full weight into a wall and just spread your arms against it and sway back and forth like a lover reunited. This long-winged insect is not trying to get into the house. It doesn't know there is a house. Can't imagine a life beyond that door. All it can see is the light. You and I were both 17 when you died. And ever since then, I have envied you. How you are remembered for towering, unclaimed potential instead of living to look regret in the face. You didn't have to come home 3 weeks later and explain to your little brother why you took too much medicine. Your addiction is remembered as a tragedy, not a betrayal. Your suicide attempt became a suicide, not an unpaid hospital bill. And only tonight did it occur to me that maybe that night when you let your teeth touch metal, you might not have known what you were doing. You might not have had a plan. Maybe you had hit that door so many times you couldn't imagine it might let you through. I'm still ashamed to admit it, but I have always secretly believed you did it for me, that you wanted to show me that there is a way out of all of this. Not so that I would follow you, but so I would understand that every day that I am alive is a day that I choose to be alive. And when the music stops, you still get to keep on dancing. And when the light is so bright it blinds, you can dance with your eyes closed. And if in that dark you come up against a wall, you keep your arms out wide and you dance with the wall.
He's not running for president, but he will shake hands and kiss babies. It's the Bill Press Show, your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election.
Hey, here we go now. It is 15 minutes before the top of the hour. On a Tuesday, March 1, top of the next hour, Igor Volsky from Think Progress joins us, and then we will jump up to Vermont to say hello to the Jerry of Ben and Jerry's, Jerry Greenfield.
We had Ben Cohen in studio.
We had Ben Cohen in studio.
Now we've had Ben and Jerry.
It's only fair that we talk to his sidekick, a business partner, the other half of the Ben and Jerry team. Yes, big supporters of Bernie Sanders, both of them out stumping for Bernie Sanders. And we are joined on our news line now by having just talked to Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky from Illinois, another one of her colleagues, Democratic member of Congress from Hawaii, who endorsed Bernie Sanders yesterday with a videotape. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard joining us. Hey, Congresswoman, it's very good to have you on the program this morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Aloha, Bill. Good to talk to you.
Aloha to you as well. We heard all about your surfing exploits from Chris Moody from CNN.
We took Chris out on a few waves. I hope he had a good time.
He had a great
He's still
time.
talking about
with a GoPro camera and everything. And you were in good form there, Congresswoman. We must say.
I try.
So you actually felt this was important enough to support Bernie Sanders that you resigned as an officer of the DNC to make that in order to be able to make that endorsement. Why was it so important to you?
Well, Bill, the stakes are so high in this election, and I was increasingly frustrated over the last several months as I saw how very little people were addressing the issue of war and peace in this election overall, in particular in our Democratic primary. I was trying to get my voice out there, but sitting from a position within the DNC where I was forced to remain neutral, I felt like I could no longer stand on the sidelines. You know, I'm a soldier. I'm 13 years in the Army National Guard in Hawaii and deployed twice to the Middle East. And I've seen firsthand, working in a medical unit, the very, very high human cost of war. And the most important job of the president is their role as commander-in-chief. And I'm endorsing Bernie because we need a commander-in-chief who has that sound judgment and foresight not to continue carrying out these interventionist wars of regime change like we've seen in Iraq, we've seen in Libya, and now we're seeing carry out before our eyes in Syria that have cost us so much, and trillions of dollars, thousands of American lives, what to speak of the hundreds of thousands of lives lost in the Middle East, and our enemy Al-Qaeda and ISIS being stronger than ever.
Is implied in that statement, Congresswoman, that you believe that Bernie would be less likely to pursue regime change or pursue any new military engagements or wars, right, than Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, Bill, it's not just a matter of what I believe. It's a matter of what the facts and what our two candidates' records show. There is a clear philosophical difference between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. Bernie has shown through his record, as well as the positions he has taken on present-day issues like Syria, that he is committed to ending this interventionist war of regime change policy that we've been on for far too long. He will not hesitate to use our military power when necessary to defend the safety and security of the American people, but he understands how high the cost is and that we should be reinvesting and rebuilding our nation here at home rather than continuing these interventionist wars.
I don't know whether you saw the last couple of days, the New York Times has been running, there were two back-to-back articles about Libya, which may be the textbook case of why regime change doesn't always work.
Yeah, exactly. It was a great piece, and for any of your listeners who haven't read it, it's very long, it's very in-depth, but it's worth the time to sit down and read it because, as you said, it points out very clearly why we, as the United States, should not continue embarking on these regime change missions around the world that we've seen fail so badly, that we've seen incur such high costs. And the article is about Libya, and it details Hillary Clinton's interventionist mindset. She was the architect and champion within the Obama administration for this regime change in Libya, getting rid of Gaddafi, and now we see a completely failed state, chaos, thousands of lives lost, and ISIS and Al-Qaeda now having a new stronghold in Libya because they saw that opportunity to go in there, where that opportunity was not there before. We've seen the same thing in Secretary Clinton's record with regards to Iraq, and now with regard to Syria, and her really being such a strong advocate for a regime change there, and promising to escalate the war there by implementing a so-called no-fly zone, which would really directly put us into conflict with Russia, which, that's a whole other conversation on the global implications of that, considering the U.S. and Russia are the only countries that have these nuclear weapons still pointed at each other.
Right. We had Joe Cirincione, I don't know whether you know Joe, who was also, by the way, one of a member of Bernie Sanders' foreign policy team of experts, if you will, in studio with us yesterday from the Plowshares Fund, who said that he thinks we would be better off today were Gaddafi still in charge in Libya rather than the way it is today, with ISIS having, as you pointed out, a new stronghold there. The irony, Congresswoman, we're talking with Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard from Hawaii's 2nd District. The irony is that most people say, well, Bernie's really great on the domestic issues, but on foreign policy, he's weak compared to Hillary Clinton. But as you point out, he's got a record, too, on foreign policy. It's just a totally different record.
It's a very different record, and we should not mistake the contrast between experience and judgment. And to me, a lot of people can have different kinds of experiences, and people do. But when it comes right down to it, for our next commander-in-chief, we need to be confident that they have sound judgment, that they have foresight. They have what I call a military mindset, which means, military mindset's not talking tough and, walking around with your chest puffed out. It means you're able to objectively analyze, the course of action before you and anticipate what the likely consequences or reactions to that action are. The answers to that what happens next question, which as we can see for over a decade now, that has not happened, and these failures are a direct result of that.
Yeah, and Bernie Sanders has certainly learned that lesson. Well, it was a very brave, bold move on your part, Congresswoman. I was glad to see you there. Bernie Sanders is lucky to have you. I have to tell you, I saw one of your colleagues last night, Congressman Sam Farr, who I know is a good friend.
He's a wonderful guy.
And
we're sad to see him go.
I know, isn't it terrible? He's resigning retiring, I should say, at the end of the year. But so I'll give you a little mission today, Congressman. I think you ought to work on Congressman Sam Farr. I started on him last night. And
all right.
Maybe we can get him on board as well.
I will do that. I'll find him on the House floor and do the last part of the mission.
You tell him to get on the right team here. Okay.
There you go.
Hey, thanks so much, Congresswoman. Good to talk to you today. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank
Aloha.
You. Aloha. I love that.
Yeah, man.
Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard from Hawaii.
Man, she's great.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yep, here we go into hour number 3 now on Free Speech TV. You'll find us at 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 Pacific. But right away, you can join us on TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. A very exciting third hour coming up. Normally, he's here a lot earlier, but we let him sleep in this morning. Igor Volsky from Think Progress will be along at the top of the hour. And then we'll be joined, Ben & Jerry's, right? There's no better ice cream around. We've talked to Ben before. Today, we'll talk to Jerry for the very first time. All of that coming up, hour number 3 here on The Bill Press Show. Stay with us.
You taught him how to hit a baseball. Just like that. Say hi! How to hit a receiver. Nice. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go with Igor Volsky coming up top of the next hour. President Obama, very interesting meeting today. I'd love to be in on this one, by the way. He and the Vice President get the daily briefing early, and then the President's going to meet with the bipartisan leaders of the Senate and the Senate Judiciary Committee to talk about the Supreme Court nomination.
Oh, isn't that curious?
Yeah, isn't that nice? Yes. And so Mitch McConnell's going to be there, as well as Harry Reid, and then Chuck Grassley and Senator Patrick Leahy. They're going to meet in the Oval Office late this morning. Afterwards, the President and the Vice President will have lunch. I'm sure that lunch will be a hoot.
Oh, yes, it
They'll
will.
be talking about what a stick in the mud Mitch McConnell and Chuck Grassley, what the two of them are. But I mean, why would he even sit down with Mitch McConnell and Chuck Grassley? They both said they're not going to hold a hearing. They're not going to have a meeting. They're not going to hold a vote, right? They're just going to ignore the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know what? I think the president should say, fine, you do that. And let Bernie Sanders pick the next justice of the Supreme Court. And then you'll wish you would listen to me. Igor Volsky
This
coming up next.
is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together, and it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
we began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this. Because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
$42 million. Yep. The month of February for Bernie Sanders. $42 million in small contributions, averaging $30. Who needs a super PAC? Not the Burn Man. Hello, everybody. What do you say? It is... Hello, guys.
Hi,
Tuesday, March 1. What's going on here? Super Tuesday, we call it. Yep, and this is the Bill Press Show, and they're already voting in 11 states and 12 states for the Republicans, 11 for the Democrats. What a big day. Great to see you. Thank you for joining us. We've got Igor Volsky, Prince Igor, in a little bit later than usual. We let him sleep in today because
Thank you.
It's Super Tuesday. He's got to be up late watching the returns, and so we gave you an extra hour
That's what I
today,
needed.
Igor. Hello.
By the way,
how are you?
always a Super Tuesday on the Bill Press Show when I'm here. Always a Super Tuesday.
You know what? That's
Every
pretty good.
Tuesday
That's
is
pretty
a Super
good.
Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know why? Because Arthur Delaney's here ahead of you.
Oh,
my God.
wow.
Disrespect.
Oh,
Disrespect.
my.
Ouch.
See? He's mad you weren't here earlier.
You're the Burn Man. Telling you. Thank you. See, I sleep in. I'm so much
He's
funnier.
full of beans, man. He's shot out of a cannon today, Jack.
Watch out. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson here. I don't know whose side they're on.
I'm
staying
out of it.
My side.
I'm always on Bill's side.
With Ray
Igor,
Rogers.
shame on you.
Ray Rogers standing by to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Bolding, of course, our videographer on the job. Well, Donald Trump's been attacking everybody, Jamie. He even attacked now. They did a town. I didn't even hear about this, but he did a town hall last night with Sean Hannity on Fox, and he's attacked everybody else yet except Fox News, I think. But last night he even went out against Fox News.
Look, you got some bad people in Fox. You got some great people, too, but you got some bad people. And you're going to have...
Wait a minute. In all fairness, have you ever watched MSNBC? They suck. They're really bad.
But they do treat me well.
Thanks, Sean.
John Hannity. The war.
They suck. They suck. Yeah.
Number one rating.
A bunch of gorillas just grunting. That's Trump and Hannity in a room.
That's all right. You know, the way we'll do it, we'll just let Fox and MSNBC fight it out while CNN just charges right up the middle and takes the ratings war.
See this guy?
So poetic.
Company man.
Ever since I signed my contract with CNN.
He bought and paid for it. That's what's happening here. He has bought and paid for it.
Now, I don't want to rub it in, but you will see me on CNN today from 4 to 6 Eastern, and then from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern. 5 hours.
Woo. Why even watch this show?
Oh. Yeah, that's right.
No, 3 hours here and 5 hours there. 8 hours on television. That's a good day.
That's a lot of bill.
That's a good day, I say. All right, we'll get right into it with Igor here on Supreme Court and on Super Tuesday. And at the half hour, we'll be joined by him, Jerry. You know, like Ben and Jerry. We've talked to Ben. Today we talked to Jerry. And Igor's here for the entire hour as a friend of Bill. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. How about this? It's a story we've talked about an awful lot, but Apple does not have to unlock an iPhone in a New York case. This is from a federal judge in Brooklyn, New York. They denied the government's application to force Apple to help law enforcement gain access to an iPhone belonging to a man who pled guilty in a meth conspiracy. So just be clear, this is not the San Bernardino shooting. It's a different case, but
it's a good
as
precedent.
We all know, with law, precedent is a lot, and this is a big one.
And those cases are going to be settled before the
San Bernardino
one. Right.
Yes, exactly. So this is the first one that we've really been paying attention to, and the federal judge says Apple does not have to unlock that phone. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. There'll be more of these to come. So if you've got a bad habit that you're trying to hide from your spouse, you really need to be more careful now than ever before, because Julie Riding, a woman who lives in England, was suspicious that her husband was sneaking cigarettes.
Ooh.
She was suspicious that he was sneaking cigarettes.
That's hard to hide.
It's hard to hide, yes, it is. But he would go on walks or whatever and come back, and he would smell a little smoky. And she said, "Did you have a cigarette?" "No, of course not. No, I never had a cigarette." Well, she just on a whim went on Google Maps and looked at the street view of her house. And lo and behold, there's a shot of her husband smoking a cigarette at the end of the driveway. She busted. There's a picture of it.
That's so
but
good.
The Telegraph has.
Wow.
It's fantastic. I'll tweet it out at BP Show so you can see it. Look at him. He's at the end of the driveway smoking a cigarette.
I love Google Street View.
It's so creepy.
From topless sunbathers to the guy getting caught smoking cigarettes.
It's so weird. It's so weird. But this guy got busted.
You would think the dumb jerk would walk a little bit farther from the house and the end of the driveway.
Really should have thought ahead.
That's a good point.
To kiss him. I mean,
can't you not smell that? I mean, that's
she would say, like, "You smell like smoke." And he goes, "Oh no, as I was hanging out with my friends."
Kiss him.
Yeah, that is one way.
You could tell.
You know, the presidential election is going on.
No.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this. This is happening. Today is Super Tuesday.
Oh.
But what are the candidates eating, and what are they feeding their staff, right? You have to report this type of stuff.
I don't know.
And Eater.com did a whole big layout of who's spending what on food, and they got some receipts. So the Ben Carson campaign, they got a couple of receipts from some places like 7-Eleven. They're buying food, like snack food for people on the road. There's a big bill for a restaurant called Albert's in San Diego, because they're on the road, of course. Hillary Clinton, lots of money at Alley Cat Pizzeria. There's a big one for a catering event in Massachusetts. And lots of bakers. Marco Rubio, a very large bill at the Bellagio in Las Vegas. $15,219 is what they spent. Now, this covers like the whole campaign. Very interesting one on Bernie's, by the way. Bernie's has a couple here and there. Bonefish Grill in North Charleston. We was campaigning in North Charleston. Caesars Entertainment. And right here in Washington, D.C., $1,788 at Blue Jacket.
Oh,
our brewer friends right down the way. Yeah,
right.
Greg
That's
is.
so cool.
In fact, Bernie hosted a big event there.
Yeah,
they shut down the restaurant. And Bernie had an event there. So our buddy Greg Engert and the folks of Blue Jacket had Bernie there. So it's pretty cool.
Tremendous beer.
Yeah, very good beer. Delicious beer.
All right, you got it. Yeah. Reading better today than when I was on the road in the presidential campaigns. Here we go. Igor, let's start with this whole mess about the president today, right? It's right toward that we said in the last hour. He is sitting down to meet with Mitch McConnell, Harry Reid, Chuck Grassley, and Pat Leahy about the Supreme Court nomination. What does he expect to learn from Mitch McConnell and Chuck Grassley?
It might be a very short meeting.
I would think.
Very short meeting if they stick to their positions, which it looks like they will.
At least for now.
No hearings. We're not even meeting with the nominee until there's a new president. So I don't know what he's going to tell them. I think he might try to reason with them a little bit, maybe point out the fact that Mitch McConnell, over his 31-year career in the Senate, said multiple times, I counted some 24 times in the congressional record, demanding that judges need an up or down vote. Chuck Grassley, who's of course the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, went even further, saying in a 2005 speech that I am a senator and my responsibility is to vote on these nominees. Let me vote on these nominees. Time and time and time
Delicious
and time again.
irony.
Delicious irony. We got some 28 times for Chuck Grassley over his career saying just that, demanding an up or down vote. Here, of course, they're singing a different tune. And I think the real kind of, I guess, go-to argument, if I was Obama, I would say this. Well, look. If you guys don't want to abide by the Constitution and perform your duty of advise and consent and give my nominee a up or down vote, then maybe I won't abide by the Constitution and run for a third term. Boom! You want to play hardball? I'll play hardball.
Slam.
There you go.
Right, yeah.
If we're just throwing this document out the window now, when it suits us, when we don't want to follow it, when we don't want to look at it, then fine. Free-for-all. It's a free-for-all.
I'll tell you what I would do. I would dig up Antonin Scalia, and I'd have his body propped up in a chair, and I'd say, here's Mr. Originalist. What would Antonin Scalia say? You know, Dave, what would he say? Follow the Constitution.
Follow the letter of the law.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the Constitution. But I don't think, well, at this meeting, they're not
You don't think
he'll
run for a third term? Is that your prediction?
I don't think he'll have to, because my prediction is that Republicans eventually are going to fold.
And you see a situation here, if they don't fold here, if Hillary wins the election, then they're going to be like, let's do it. Let's approve this candidate in a lame duck session, because they would much rather have Obama nominate someone than have a popularly elected president in the very first days of their term nominate a candidate, and that candidate be someone far less agreeable to them than whoever they'll get in the lame duck.
I said this last night at a book event on my new book, where I said, fine, let's follow the script. Let them do this, right? And then have Bernie Sanders appoint the next Justice of the United States Supreme Court. How would they like that?
They would not.
No. So the whole strategy is, to me, is just, it's going to come back and bite them in the butt.
And it's a real problem. I mean, when you say it's going to bite them in the butt, the question is who's going to be hurt the most? And those are the senators who are up for re-election. Pat Toomey in Pennsylvania.
Republican senators,
yes,
exactly.
Who are standing in the way and kind of just agreeing with McConnell in this very knee-jerk way. You look at some of the numbers that have been released publicly, for instance, the PPP polls all across the battleground states, where voters say that senators should follow the Constitution, should do their jobs, and should at least give a hearing to a nominee. I mean, it's highly unpopular what they're doing. And in those places, Ohio, Pennsylvania, I mean, it could be a real problem for them. Certainly Illinois, where one senator, at least Kirk, saw the writing on the wall and was one of the first Republicans to say, yes, let's give them a hearing. But it's one thing to say let's give them a hearing, and one thing to lead your party into convincing them they need a hearing.
Right. When are we going to have a nominee?
Next week.
Next
Sometime
week.
next week. Next week, the week after, yeah.
Okay. I'm out of the office. I'm out for a couple of days. I'll have to tell the president to wait until I
pause
get
it.
Hold
Put
off.
a little pause.
Yeah, wait.
Of course, big news will happen because you're going to be gone. That's when the big news always happens, when you're not here.
I planned it that way. So when I can come back, I got it all over again.
Lots of stuff to talk
right?
about.
Right. Now, I think, and we know the president, he's going to appoint an outstanding nominee, somebody who's been confirmed by the Senate by a bipartisan vote overwhelmingly, most likely.
That's what it looks like.
Right. And then watch them squirm.
Yeah, I mean, they'll look, particularly if it's somebody who they have praised in the past, who in one of these hearings they said is so qualified, has exemplary credentials, is just a dream candidate. If they've said that about anybody he appoints, what can they possibly say? How can they respond to not even meeting with this person? Because that's what they pledged to. It's not even have a hearing.
No.
It's not even meet, not even talk. That's not something that's going to go well for them.
All right, SCOTUS, do you think it'll hold? Will Republicans have to cave? Igor Volsky here with us from Think Progress. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number, and we'll continue the conversation. We'll be right back.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Today, in this country, we are having a conversation about police violence, the killing of black men, and what all that means. It is sad that this is happening and that every day there's a new incident to cause us to keep thinking about it and talking about it. But it is extraordinary that the American people are having to deal with this every day, whether you're watching CNN or MSNBC, Fox, or ABC News. All the news channels are talking about police violence and what does that mean against black people. Many people probably look at that, certainly have looked at it in the past, and they have said that these poor black men are doing bad things, and that's why they are ending up in confrontations with police without any understanding of their lives of these poor black young men. Part of what has been going on for decades is that poor black people live in communities that suffer from hyper-surveillance of the police. The police are more likely to be in their communities. The police are more likely to arrest them. The police are more likely to stop them even if they're not doing anything. And that is what is so hard for the American people to believe, that you would get stopped and searched and arrested by the police and not doing anything. But this is starting to come out as people are telling the stories over and over again. But this has been the condition, this hyper-surveillance by police, making it more likely for people to get a record, to be known by the police, and then once they get in the system, it is almost impossible to get out because of the whole system of being on parole and missing an appointment or fraternizing with a person who has a criminal record, getting you right back in the jail, and then going back again and again and again. This is coming to be seen by the American people in a way that it has never been seen before. But why are people in these communities in the first place? That's getting peeled away. People are there because of housing discrimination. They are there because this is the only place where affordable housing can be found. They are there because that's where their families live, and people are drawn to being in communities where they are comfortable. The combination keeps people in these low-income communities where they are an easy target for hyper-surveillance and then everything that comes from it. And so as we think about these issues, we have to understand that while you as an individual in this society, as a white individual, you may not carry personal racism, but that does not keep the system from operating in a racist way.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go. 24 minutes after the hour. How about it? With Igor Volsky, we're going to be talking to Jerry, as in Ben & Jerry's.
Yep.
At the half hour, Igor. How about that?
Yum.
Igor, yeah, that's right. He's going to bring any samples?
I hope so.
Or send some
Where
in
are
at
they?
any rate. Igor here is a friend of Bill. Let's take a look at Super Tuesday. What are you expecting Super Tuesday here?
Well, on the Republican side, I think the race is really for second, as it's always been for Marco Rubio. Let's be honest. This is very familiar territory. Well,
which is a win for him.
Which is a win for him, yes. And certainly as someone who's been consolidating the support of the establishment, of money, of Jeb Bush. I mean, I don't know how many voters you get there from Jeb Bush. But he's been telling donors and he's been telling the establishment, I'm the one who's going to stop Trump, who's going to derail his nomination. I can do it. If he comes a strong second in all of these states, 13 states you said on the GOP side?
12.
12. Then I guess...
Actually, it's 14, except 3 don't count, so like 11 are voting today. 3 don't count. Kyle Kondik was here earlier and explained this, but there are 3 caucuses where it's all determined and the voters really don't have any impact on who gets the delegates. So 11 states where voters actually make decisions today.
All right, Super Tuesday is super confusing.
It is confusing.
But the question is, if he's a strong second, I guess he comes out alive and he continue to spin this tale that he's the one who's going to take on Trump, and there's some pathway for him to take him on, but it's probably going to go to a convention. If he loses to Ted Cruz and comes third in some of these races where Cruz isn't expected to come in second. I mean, Cruz is really going to probably be very, very competitive in Texas and needs to win Texas if he hopes to continue.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a lot more difficult for him if he comes in third in more than one place, anywhere outside of Texas. So we'll have to see. But look, they keep on saying, the folks who do the math and count all this say, it's still possible. It's still possible you can derail Trump. But after Trump has said everything he has said and kind of spewed all of the hate that he's been spewing since June, and Marco Rubio at the last debate and since the last debate has been doing everything his backbenchers and his donors have asked him to do, be tougher, take it to him, and it still hasn't worked. The question is, how many more tricks does he have up his sleeve to beat this guy? What can he do?
Yeah. After you attack Donald Trump's ties, suits, accusing him of wetting his pants, attack his orange makeup, and talk about the size of his member, there's not a lot left.
There is not a lot left. And let's just give a pro tip. This is a pro tip. At a debate, when you kind of take a jab at someone, wipe that smile off your face.
Yeah.
That is not the time to smile.
Yeah.
No. Marco Rubio doesn't cut it as a
He can't do it.
That proves that he doesn't want to do it.
See, I would disagree a little with your analysis. I don't care if he comes in second, third, or fourth. If he's got to win, he has to win a primary here somewhere along the way.
He's going to be 16 for 0 if he comes out of this with not winning anywhere.
Prediction.
He probably can't win Florida either.
He is not going to win a primary today, Marco Rubio. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Heard it here first.
Maybe Ted Cruz wins Texas. I sort of hope he does to keep it alive. But if Donald Trump runs the table, it's all over. It's all over.
It's very hard to see.
Right.
They'll have to take it to the convention and see if they
so
can
you
get
heard
someone
it
on the
here
second ballot.
that Marco Rubio is not going to win.
And we'll hear it on CNN later today, too.
You will. And you want to hear now Bernie Sanders is going to win 5 states.
5 states.
5 states, okay? Bernie Sanders is going to win Minnesota, Vermont, Colorado, Massachusetts, and Oklahoma.
Oh.
All right. So you don't even have to wait up for the returns.
Why bother now? You've already got the answer.
We already know.
I just saved you all the trouble. All right.
Thank you, Bill.
When we come back, nothing better than Ben and Jerry's. And Jerry Greenfield joins us live from the great state of Vermont. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 33 minutes after the hour. Yes, indeed, it is the Bill Press Show. Igor Volsky here as a friend of Bill. 33 minutes after the hour. I think I said that. And it is number 7 on the Washington Post bestseller list. So if you don't have a copy yet, you are behind the times, dude. You can get, of course, a copy of my new book, Buyer's Remorse, How Obama Let Progressives Down, at your local bookstore, on BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon.com, or if you want a signed copy, go to our website, BillPressShow.com. You tell us how you want it signed. No questions asked.
How about that?
We'll sign it the way you want it, no matter... No porn, we said, right?
Well...
All right. You just tell us how you want to sign it.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, look, I mean, if you buy a book...
that's right. And we'll
talk about it.
And we'll send it out to you. It is a big day, indeed, for the Democratic Party. Big day for Bernie Sanders and for Hillary Clinton. 11 states up for grabs on Super Tuesday. Bernie will be celebrating tonight in home state of Vermont.
Of course.
Where we find Jerry Greenfield on our news line. Jerry, the partner of and the cohort of Ben and Jerry's. Hey, Jerry, good to have you with us.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Well, we look forward to having you in studio one of these days. Your buddy Ben was in town a couple of months ago, and he came by. And so we are all big fans of Ben and Jerry's. In fact, Jerry, I don't know whether you know, you used to have an outlet right alongside of our studio here on Capitol Hill, and we regret the day you left.
I will have to come down someday. I do have to tell you, Ben is a lot more colorful than I am, so you probably got the better of the two of us.
Now, have you been out on the road for Bernie or helping Bernie at any rate up there?
Absolutely. Both Ben and I are huge Bernie supporters. We spent 3 days in Iowa prior to the caucuses. We spent a couple days in Minnesota. We spent 3 days in New Hampshire. We just got back last week from 3 days in Massachusetts.
Whoa.
We are all in for Bernie.
Good for you, yeah. And how does it feel in Massachusetts? That's a big state today. What'd you pick up?
There was a lot of enthusiasm. We felt really good. We spent some time in Boston. We also spent time in Western Mass, in Pittsfield, and in Springfield, and in Northampton. You know, Bernie's message resonates so strongly with people, particularly among young voters, and also bringing back voters who have become disaffected by politics as usual. And so I think the excitement he's bringing and the new voters he's bringing is fantastic.
We've seen that. By the way, I just got back from Minnesota. I was there Friday. And it was the same thing, crowd of about 500 people for our great radio affiliate there, AM 950. I'd say they were 90% Bernie Sanders supporters, a lot of young people, and all for Bernie. What do you think? What's the appeal of young Bernie to young people? The oldest candidate gets the youngest voters.
Well,
go figure.
Bernie is, first of all, Bernie is authentic and he tells the truth. So that's a big start right there. But, you know, his message about that the political system is rigged, that the economic system is rigged, is something we all know. I mean, everybody knows it. It's not like, but nobody's willing to talk about it. Nobody's willing to take it on. And, you know, if you're fine with how things are going, you should vote for one of the politics as usual candidates. But if you want to make a change, if you want to have our government respond to actual everyday citizens, Bernie is the only choice.
And Jerry, the really fun thing here, I think, is for a business owner like yourself, the owner of a pretty large company, pretty prominent American company, to say that his economic message about great inequality, about the benefits of our economy going to the few and not to most Americans, that kind of theme and that kind of message, the fact that you are carrying it for him and for to America, I think is pretty powerful to say that, you know, that even folks who have done very well in this economy understand that it can't continue this way.
Right. Well, first of all, that's what major economists are saying, that Bernie's plan is right. But one of the things we did in Boston last week was hold a business roundtable of business people who are supporting Bernie. And all we're all saying is people who have done well should pay their fair share. It's not that people shouldn't do well. It's that we all have a responsibility to this country. And a lot of the reason people have been successful is because of the infrastructure and the support the country gives us, and we should just be paying our fair share. The idea that somebody is working full-time and making minimum wage means that they live in poverty, and that's certainly not fair. And having a country where not all people are guaranteed health insurance health insurance is a human right. Healthcare is a human right. It's not a privilege of the few.
How long have you known Bernie, Jerry?
Ben and I first met Bernie back in Burlington probably about 30 years ago when he first won mayor. And Bernie is actually a very good manager. He's very fiscally smart, so this idea that he's going to have all these programs that aren't paid for is simply not true. And the other interesting thing about Bernie is that he's been talking about the same thing for 30 years. Yeah. It's not as if he's changed his tune. He's motivated by deeply held values about fairness and equality. And the political pundits have written off Bernie since his earliest elections. They've always said he couldn't win. He won mayor of Burlington first by 10 votes, and he got elected and reelected, and he got elected to House and got reelected, and he got elected to Senate and reelected. And the pundits and the experts always say he can't do it, and he always fools them because it turns out the people end up supporting Bernie, if not the political establishment.
How has he changed in the 30 years you've known him, or has he changed?
His policies and his seriousness about taking care of everyday Americans has not changed at all. He is as tireless and unwavering as he's always been. I think he's loosened up somewhat on the campaign trail. He jokes around more. He seems more comfortable with it, which is nice to see. He'll joke around with people more. But, for Bernie, it's always been about the issues. It's never been about him personally. He doesn't really seek all this attention. He just understands that if you want to make these changes in our country, you need to take a stand and be out front about it. But as he also says, it's not about him. It's about us. It's going to take millions of people rising up, even after he gets elected, to bring about the changes we all want to bring about.
Do you think he's surprised at the reception that he's had nationwide?
I don't know about if Bernie is. I certainly am. For people in Vermont who've known Bernie, it's not a surprise. In the last Senate election here, Bernie got 70% of the vote. Not because everybody agrees with him, but because he's somebody who you can trust, who tells the truth and is genuine. And I think Bernie's recognition around the country started out very low. Obviously, most of the country knows about Hillary from being First Lady, and she ran for president in 2008, and she was Secretary of State. So she had a real advantage there, and also, as I mentioned, among the Democratic establishment. But when people find out about Bernie, they're incredibly enthusiastic.
Well, Jerry, one of the challenges that Bernie has had is appealing to some of the constituencies within the Democratic Party, African-American voters, Hispanic voters, partly because as Senator of Vermont, he hasn't really had to gather up those votes. Vermont's, of course, predominantly white. Do you see that as a challenge for Bernie to expand his brand beyond kind of his core constituency?
I think that has been his challenge. It's a little ironic because Bernie has been involved in civil rights issues going back to the days of Martin Luther King, and he's been really committed to it. But as you say, Vermont is a very white state, and we don't really have a large population for people in color. I think in Nevada, Bernie connected well with Latinos.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't done as well with African Americans. He's got some great African Americans supporting him: Spike Lee, Killer Mike, Cornel West, Ben Jealous, the former head of the NAACP. But that message has not yet connected, and I think that is the big challenge for Bernie going forward.
Well, Jerry, we know you guys are going to have a great big celebration in Vermont this evening. So say hello to the good senator for us and to your partner, Ben. And thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. Hope to see you sometime in person.
I hope so, too. And we'll enjoy some rum raisin or some cherry Garcia together when we do. I'm not sure which is my favorite. All right. Thanks, Jerry.
Yep.
All right. How about that? Ben and Jerry. I mean, are there any two businessmen in America more famous by name, right?
No.
I don't think. I mean, think about
I can
it.
think of a couple.
All right, LL Bean. Well, I don't know.
The Koch brothers?
Bill Gates.
That's the complete other side of the spectrum.
I'd rather have Ben and Jerry any day
100%.
than Charles and David Koch.
Ice cream.
Hey, Igor Volsky here as a friend of Bill. He may be the only friend left when we come back.
Really good friend.
Can't catch the entire show? Listen to BP in 3, where we turn 3 hours into 3 minutes. Find it every day at BP Show on Twitter or at BillPressShow.com.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. My whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
That's
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, and then there were two.
Hi there.
Hello, hello. Igor Volsky here with Peter Ogburn.
Yeah.
Bill Press had to run off.
Yep.
And so here we are, a little switcheroo, talking about what we face, not only in Super Tuesday, but of course in this election as a whole. And I'm like adjusting myself a little bit because I haven't
done it in the new studio yet,
in
huh?
this beautiful new studio.
You like this?
I do really like this.
We still don't have a name for it. We wanted to name it something, and we haven't gotten there yet. We're
Is
working
Igor
on it.
Castle off the list? The Igor Castle.
No, we've gotten
did we
quite
have that?
a few votes for
Did that make?
so
Yeah,
far.
yeah. I'm not sure if it made it.
I have
on the
some
list.
Twitter followers. I'll take a poll. We'll see what they
no,
come
you don't
up
have
with.
to do that.
I'll
You
do
really
that
don't
for
have to
you,
do
and then
that.
whatever they
I mean,
say,
I think
we'll
that
do.
We've got it. Yeah.
That's how we should do that.
Well, thanks for doing that.
Yes, no, of course. You know what? I have been really kind of shocked about what happened last weekend. And nothing tells you about the state of the race more than when you look at 61% of the voters in South Carolina being African American voters coming out and voting incredibly disproportionately to the population of that state, which is about, I think, 21% or 24%, you would know, African American. So while 61% African American voters vote in the South Carolina Democratic primary, the GOP frontrunner refuses to condemn the KKK. That was the weekend. And to me, that encompasses where we are in this election like nothing else.
Yeah. The Trump KKK thing, I think, is so interesting because I really, truly can't figure it out of whether or not he thought he could just get away with not disavowing the KKK and people wouldn't notice because frankly, he's gotten away with so much already. It's just really just an ongoing game of what can Trump get away with next. And this one I think was different because people cared a little bit more. And his explanation was total nonsense.
I mean, his explanation
Total
is total garbage. And I tweeted the next day because there were all of these articles asking, could he really not hear it because his earpiece was loose? And did he really have trouble? And I thought to myself, are we really bending over backwards for this guy and pretending that his explanation is nothing more than just absolute garbage? And yes, another test run to see what he can get away with, because frankly, it's been so easy for him. Right?
Yeah,
This entire run, no hard questions, Mika. That's what has characterized his entire campaign. He can say anything he wants, he can do anything he wants, and he gets a pass with his voters. And so the question for me is, as we move into Super Tuesday, are Republican primary voters, the party of Lincoln, are they going to elect somebody who would not condemn the KKK? Are we really, after 8 years, almost 8 years of President Obama, in a place where the opposition party is going to elect someone who is openly flirting with white supremacy? That's the question.
If your question is, will this hurt Donald Trump? The correct answer is no. It's not going to hurt him. It's just not. Because here's the thing. White supremacists and racists have already gotten what they wanted, right? That little wink, wink, nudge, nudge from Donald Trump of not disavowing them, right? Like immediately shutting them down. And then, oh, well, when he comes back and says, well, of course I disavow them. Well, he had to do that.
That's what they said. Yeah,
I'm telling you.
No, that's what they said. I mean,
Yeah.
there's an article in today's New York Times about how he is appealing to these white supremacist
This is how he
groups,
does it.
And this is how he does it. And this is what you have white supremacists saying, is that this is what he has to do to get elected.
Yeah.
We understand
We
this.
get it. We get it, Donald.
We
It's
get
okay.
it. But the question, one is, yes, you're appealing to white supremacists. You're ginning them up. The question is, who are you putting in danger? Who are you, whether it be African Americans, whether it be Muslims, whether it be other folks who aren't white?
Yeah.
we are seeing an uptick in violence against Muslims. We are seeing an uptick in violence against Latinos. You'll remember in Massachusetts, a Latino man was roughed up by two people who said they were following the words of Donald Trump. If he's the nominee, and if we have many more months of this kind of thing, does it become very difficult to be kind of a minority in this country again, because you're radicalizing a lot of folks?
Look, until some real people come out and say we cannot have this in the Republican Party, some real Republicans, right, step forward and knock it down. But that's not going to happen. Chris Christie endorsed Donald Trump. Jeff Sessions endorsed Donald Trump. You need someone like that to say, we're getting ahead of ourselves and I can't support Donald Trump. Then maybe.
It's despicable is what it is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Everybody's too scared to.
Absolutely despicable. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to close up this Super Tuesday edition of the Bill Press Show. Stay with us.
Your place to talk about the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
For my 6th birthday, my grandpa gave me a Rubik's Cube. I'll always be able to remember its edges, hold it in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I remember him telling me about it. How Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion, 252 quadrillion, 3 trillion, 274 billion, 489,856,000 possibilities. He told me it can be really confusing sometimes. But to look at the center squares as a reminder of what color each side should be. Shift. We're celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary. He and Grandma are dancing a dance that only fragile legs and wrinkled hands know how to. That type of happiness took him 70 years to earn. The white side of the cube is solved. Shift. He tells me about how he met Grandma. His college friends had a sunset picnic. She was there, as beautiful as an unsolved puzzle. She was a red-headed scramble on an orange tile sky. Shift. The walls of the hospital are blue. The nurses explain that his memories had become jumbled. Strangers in family portraits, pictures with mismatched faces. Alzheimer's has made his mind into a Rubik's Cube. Shift. He's a highway patrolman. His car is white. No, it's blue. He worked there for 30 years. Some nights he still does. Time is a complicated algorithm. Shift. The pills he holds are yellow and red and green. The weight of their color causes his hand to drop. I try to shift his tiles back into place, but people don't have center squares. His mind is a hospital bed divided by 0. Shift. My sister's wedding is white, but he doesn't know why. Shift. World War II is every color. The South Pacific is blue. The islands are green. There is so much red. Shift. Grandpa, table, cube, name, scramble, California, guitar, grapefruit, highway, wedding bell, war, stick shift rifles, South Pacific mirrors. Shift, 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 shift. The temperature of his hands is blue. Death is colorless. I will always remember his edges. Hold him in my hands. Heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I was unable to attend his funeral. I never found out the algorithm to solve him. A Rubik's Cube has over 43 quintillion possibilities. A casket only has one.
This is the Bill Press Show.
57 minutes after the hour, the final moments of this super duper Tuesday. You know, they keep on saying that Marco Rubio can still have life left in him, even if he loses, that's right, loses every single contest on Super Tuesday. I believe the number crunchers that maybe there's a pathway to the nomination. But it's hard to imagine that could actually be the case.
I can't see it.
What's much more likely is that when we come out of Super Tuesday, that by tomorrow morning when Bill is in this chair, we'll all start calling Donald Trump the presumptive Republican nominee. And then Hillary Clinton, who's a very wonky person and likes policy details and bakes compromises into her policy proposals, is going to have to run against somebody who speaks in hashtags, in sound bites, and is all about heart and not about head. And that is going to be a strategy you got to figure out right now. How do you do that? Because none of the rules of traditional campaigning apply anymore in Trump world, in 2016 America. Oy vey.
This is the Bill Press Show.